Yeah, one of the questions that often comes up when I talk about the effect of dairy or milk and osteoporosis is people say, well, that there's a big difference between having raw milk and having pasteurised, homogenised milk. And look, there's no doubt that the pasteurisation process, the homogenisation process, certainly destroys, a lot of the enzymes in the milk and a lot of the components, that make it usable, for a baby calf to be able to get nutrient out of it. And if you gave pasteurised, homogenised milk to a baby calf, their health will deteriorate, rather than be helped by it, and that's certainly true. But if you want to look at human studies of raw milk versus not raw milk, probably the best example of that would be looking at the China study. Now, the China study was a study where they looked at, it was a 30-year study that looked at people in both rural China and in metropolitan China, or in the cities in China. And the interesting thing with that study is that about 87% of the DNA of the Chinese population is virtually the same. You couldn't get a more closer or more accurate group to look at. And interestingly, 90% of their population, where they are born is where they die. So, and you don't have these migration sort of factors to look at there as well. But what they looked at was what's the effect of the populations that consume milk versus those that didn't. And a lot of the ones that they were looking at were in the rural parts of China, where they didn't go through the pasteurization and homogenization processes. They basically milked the cow and drank the milk themselves. But what they found was that when people were consuming raw milk, they had a higher rate, specifically, of prostate cancer and breast cancer. They were the two ones that came out of the China study findings. And the main reason for it was you still have the casein, you still have the lactose. And while you've got those, they are going to create acidity in the body, which also leads to the manifestation of these illnesses. So yes, whilst it's certainly far more beneficial than having the homogenized and pasteurized version of the milk, but it's still going to create that acidity. So from a pure health point of view, it's preferential not to have that. I believe that as a human being, that the best milk for us is mother's milk. Now, when you look at the protein levels in mother's milk and you compare it to cow's milk, you'll find that there's only a fraction of the protein in mother's milk. It's something like between about 1 to about 4%, whereas in cow's milk it's many times that. And it's quite understandable it would be the case, because if you look at how rapidly a calf grows from when it's born to when it's a full-grown cow, within about 2 years, that's a massive amount of growth that it's going through. Whereas a human being, even when it doubles its size, it's not doing the same level of growth. So the requirements are very, very different for human beings compared to cows. But it's no doubt that mother's milk is certainly a lot healthier for human beings. In fact, a number of years ago, they wanted to ban mother's milk for athletic competitions, because they said it was performance enhancing. And in fact, they even wanted to ban coconut water for the same reason, and because athletes were using it before events and after, as they were with mother's milk. But interestingly, lauric oil is found, and lauric acid is found in mother's milk, and it's found in coconuts and virtually nowhere else. And the protein levels in the coconut water is almost identical to that of mother's milk, and in a lot of the Polynesian countries, when the mother can't breastfeed or the child's lost its mother, they would give the child the coconut water as a substitute for mother's milk, and seems to work really well. Interestingly, when they go through periods where they run out of blood, like in the Vietnam War, they would do transfusions of just coconut water, and because it's so compatible with human blood, that within minutes that the coconut water would then start enabling the body to start producing red blood. So so that's basically telling you that they're very compatible. But when you compare cow's milk, it is very different to mother's milk.